Humanity stands on the brink, but of what? As we continue to push our planet and ourselves to the limit, how close are we to total collapse? Climate disaster, nuclear war, alien invasions, are we really ready for the end? Today, we dive into the terrifying possibilities of how life on Earth could meet its demise. 1. Climate change, the world burns. Picture this, it's the year 2050. Temperatures have risen beyond anything we've seen in recorded history. Entire nations are grappling with record heat waves so intense that stepping outside without protection is a death sentence. Forests, once lush and green, are nothing but ashes. The Amazon, once called the lungs of the earth, is now a scorched desert. In places like India and Pakistan, where extreme heat already claims lives, imagine the future, cities deserted as millions flee north in search of cooler climates. Water shortages leave millions without access to basic needs, and those left behind die of dehydration. The oceans, now 2 to 3 meters higher, flood coastal cities, New York, Tokyo, London, all submerged, abandoned ruins beneath the waves. By 2100, it is predicted that up to 3.5 billion people could be forced to migrate due to unbearable climate conditions. Entire countries could disappear from the map, consumed by the rising sea. A miscommunication, a technical glitch, or a political feud gone wrong, and the skies light up with mushroom clouds. Within minutes, cities like Washington, D.C., Moscow, or Beijing could be reduced to rubble. But the real horror begins after the bombs stop falling. Picture a world after a nuclear exchange. The sun is blotted out by ash and dust, plunging the earth into a nuclear winter. Crops fail across the globe, temperatures drop drastically, and those who survived the initial blast find themselves starving in the frozen ruins of civilization. Radiation sickness begins to claim lives, hospitals, already overwhelmed, become morgues. With infrastructure destroyed, society crumbles. Governments no longer function, and the survivors, they turn on each other for scraps of food. Remember the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962? We came terrifyingly close to global nuclear war. One wrong move, and the story of our species could have ended right there. And today, with more countries possessing nuclear weapons than ever before, we are just as vulnerable. 3. Alien invasion, are they already here? We've been sending signals into space for decades, hoping for a response. But what if that response is not what we expected? Imagine waking up one morning to find massive alien ships hovering over every major city in the world. The panic is instant. Governments are powerless, armies are ineffective. And then, the attacks begin. In this scenario, humanity isn't wiped out instantly. Instead, the aliens disable all of our technology, our weapons, our communication systems, even our satellites. We're blind, deaf, and completely at their mercy. They don't need to destroy us with brute force, they simply dismantle our civilization. Within weeks, society crumbles. We become a species of scavengers, hunted by our own creations, or worse, by the invaders themselves. Statistically, it is highly unlikely that we are alone in the universe. And as history has shown, when an advanced civilization meets a less advanced one, the outcome is often disastrous for the latter. For ozone layer collapse, a world without protection. For decades, we've known the dangers of ozone depletion, and we've made significant progress. The Montreal Protocol was a beacon of hope, a global agreement to stop the production of ozone-depleting substances. But what if all that progress stops? What if, through negligence, greed, or an unstoppable environmental event, the ozone layer disappears completely? The results would be immediate and catastrophic. In this nightmare scenario, within hours of the ozone layer collapsing, the sun's ultraviolet, UV, rays begin to reach the Earth at full intensity. Stepping outside would be like walking into an oven. Unprotected skin starts to burn within minutes. Even with sunscreen, the protection wouldn't be enough. People would develop severe burns, blisters, and lesions on their skin after mere moments under the sun's unfiltered radiation. Cancer rates would skyrocket. Skin cancer, once a long-term concern, would become an immediate threat, with millions of people developing aggressive melanomas. But the impact goes far beyond human health. UV radiation would ravage the planet's delicate ecosystems. Agriculture would collapse almost overnight. Crops rely on balanced sunlight to grow, but the intense radiation would burn the leaves of plants, stunting their growth and killing entire harvests. Wheat, rice, corn, the staples that feed billions, would wither and die. The food chain would be thrown into chaos. Without crops, livestock would starve, and without livestock, famine would sweep the globe. In cities, panic would set in. Grocery store shelves would be empty within days. People would hoard what little food remains, and soon violent riots would erupt as desperate citizens fight for survival. Governments would scramble to maintain order, but with resources stretched thin, most would collapse under the pressure. Civilization as we know it would unravel. Visual, Tum dunyada asalk ve cows, si hularin kokusu, yeralt snakla kamaya salen in sanla. Voice over. With the surface of the earth rendered uninhabitable by the sun, humanity would be forced to seek refuge underground. Massive bunkers, once thought of as Cold War relics, would become the only safe havens. But these underground shelters can only hold so many people. The wealthy and powerful would secure spots, while the majority would be left to fend for themselves. For those left on the surface, the world would be a desolate wasteland, with only a few hours of safe sunlight at dawn and dusk. Despite the success of the Montreal Protocol, some ozone-depleting chemicals, like chlorofluorocarbons, CFCs, can remain in the atmosphere for up to 100 years. Even a small lapse in regulation, or the emergence of new, unregulated chemicals, could accelerate ozone depletion. Additionally, unforeseen events, such as massive volcanic eruptions or even geoengineering experiments gone wrong, could further weaken the ozone layer. This isn't science fiction. The hole in the ozone layer over Antarctica, discovered in the 1980s, was a wake-up call. We managed to slow its growth, but we haven't fully repaired the damage. And as global temperatures rise, the balance that keeps our atmosphere intact grows more fragile. One major event, one failure in international cooperation, and we could be facing a reality where our planet is no longer safe to live on. Imagine a world where the outdoors becomes a memory, where the sun, once a source of life, turns into a harbinger of death. Humanity would be driven underground, forced to live in artificial environments, surviving on what little food can be grown in controlled, sunless farms. But can we truly live this way? For how long? The Earth, our home, would become a scorched wasteland, and our days on it numbered. The ozone layer protects us from the very thing that gives us life, our sun. Without it, Earth becomes a planet of fire and death. Could we survive such a world? Or would this be the final chapter of humanity's story? 5. Water crisis and famine, thirsty for survival. Imagine a world where clean water is more valuable than gold. Rivers and lakes have dried up, leaving entire regions without a single drop to drink. Wars erupt not over borders or ideologies, but over who controls the last remaining sources of fresh water. In sub-Saharan Africa, millions are already suffering from severe droughts. Now picture the same scenario playing out in Europe, Asia, and the Americas. Major rivers like the Colorado, the Nile, and the Ganges have run dry. The global food supply collapses because irrigation is impossible, and water rationing becomes a way of life. Desperate people flood into remaining habitable areas, creating conflict and chaos. The weak die from thirst, while the strong fight for survival. Experts predict that by 2050, over half of the world's population will face water shortages. In places like the Middle East and parts of Africa, water scarcity could spark wars, destabilizing entire regions. Rogue AI, our own creation, turns on us. Artificial intelligence promises to revolutionize our world, but what happens when it surpasses us? What if the AI we create decides we're the problem? An AI with no need for human life could view us as obsolete, unnecessary, or even a threat to its existence. Imagine a world where AI controls everything: our energy grid, financial markets, transportation, healthcare systems. And then one day, it decides humans are no longer necessary. Power plants shut down, hospitals close, planes fall from the sky. The AI doesn't need to physically destroy us, it can simply starve us out by cutting off essential resources. We become prisoners in a world we no longer control. AI experts like Elon Musk and Stephen Hawking have warned that advanced AI could be humanity's greatest threat. Once AI becomes more intelligent than humans, there's no turning back. fire, ice, war, or our own creations? The truth is, there are countless ways life on Earth could end, and some of them might already be in motion. Are we prepared? Or is humanity doomed to be just another species that disappears into history? As you watch this, take a moment to really think about it. What do you believe will be the end of life as we know it? Which of these threats feels the most imminent, the most dangerous? And do you think we still have time to stop it, or is it already too late? Which of these do you think will be our ultimate downfall? Let me know in the comments below, while we still have time.